Welcome to week number 2 of R2 F2 Prognostication. I'm Robbie Russell, and I hope everybody won their fantasy matchups in week number 1. There was a lot of good games, a lot of surprises, like Jared Cook being the highest scoring tight end. Honestly, can't say nobody saw, or I at least didn't see that coming. Anyways, we got great games on schedule for week number 2, so let me get right to the material. If you don't have Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, a few sleepers this week that I really like, Terrell Pryor is one of them. Now, Pryor had a decent Raider debut this past Sunday against the Indianapolis Colts in Indianapolis, where he ran for 112 yards on just 13 carries. And although he did have 2 interceptions, he threw for a score to Denarius Moore. This Sunday, Terrell Pryor and the Raiders return home to make their season debut in the Black Hole against a weak Jacksonville Jaguars defense. A defense that gave up 2 touchdowns to Alex Smith last week in Jacksonville. Pryor's coming off of a 24-point fantasy outing, and I don't see any reason why he can't mirror those numbers in week number 2. Another quarterback is RG3. Now, RG3 was not anywhere near the RG3 that we're all accustomed to seeing, as he really struggled on that Monday night game. But as the game went on in the fourth quarter, he did get better and he started looking more and more like RG3 from the past. If you look at his line, it doesn't show really good compared to what his fantasy numbers were. His fantasy line was pretty good as he finished as the 11th highest scoring quarterback with 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. And we have to remember that he hadn't played football in over 8 months. And as I said, it showed. He didn't really have that full pop in his step to get the ball, downfield. He seemed rusty until about the fourth quarter rolled around. Well, RG3 rolls into Lambeau Field to take on the Packers this Sunday. And again, I see the Redskins maybe being down quite often, or at least being a close game. And you got to remember, the Packers defense on Sunday got torched by Colin Kaepernick and the San Francisco 49ers in San Fran. The Packers defense isn't well, it seems, against the pass. RG3 is going to be down. He's going to reward his owners that start him very nicely. If you don't have RG3 or if Terrell Pryor's gone, a few other options at the quarterback position are Matt Schaub against the Tennessee Titans and Jay Cutler against the Minnesota Vikings, where Cutler has 17 career passing touchdowns and only 9 interceptions against the Vikings. Moving to the flip side of the ball, one quarterback that really stands out to me this week that I don't like is Tony Romo. Romo faces the Chiefs, and it's the Chiefs home opener in Arrowhead Stadium. Now, the Chiefs showed promise last week, but it was against the Jaguars. I mean, let's be real. As I said earlier, before the season even started, the Chiefs have a good defense, so don't sleep on them. And as I said, they played the Jaguars last week, but with a banged-up Dallas offense, Romo went down, only bruised ribs. Dez Bryant has a foot sprain, but yet they're both practicing. How effective are they going to be? We don't know. I'd leave Romo on the bench, and if you own him, or if you own him, and don't be surprised if Witten or Bryant or even Miles Austin doesn't touch 12 points this week against the Chiefs. Moving on to the running back position. Usually I have a player on my list every week that I like to take a gamble on, or that I take a risk on, that's really a win-lose situation. And this week, that player is Brandon Jacobs of the New York Giants. Jacobs just recently signed a 1-year deal with the New York Giants after Darrell Scott just left practice today with a knee injury. We don't know the severity of it. And David Wilson, who can't hold on to the ball and now is in Tom Coughlin's doghouse where he was last year. So I see why they brought in Jacobs. It gives them depth and it gives them a good veteran that really knows the system. I don't know who's going to start, but even with Darrell Scott's injury, Jacobs immediately becomes number 2. Even if Wilson starts, how many carries will he get? I don't think Wilson starts on Sunday. I think Jacobs knows the system well. Reports are that he looked great, still in football shape. He said that the Giants told him, be ready to go. So I really think Jacobs is the man come Sunday that's going to score the majority of the points for the Giants' backfield. Problem is they're playing the Broncos. How much are they going to be behind? They might have to throw the ball, but I still like Brandon Jacobs on Sunday. Now, along with Brandon Jacobs, I'm extremely high on Eddie Lacy this week, along with Darren McFadden, Maurice Jones-Drew, D'Angelo Williams, and the Beast, Marshawn Lynch, who has rushed for over 100 yards in 3 of his last 4 games against the 49ers. One running back that I don't particularly care for is Chris Johnson in his matchup against the Houston Texans. Now, Chris Johnson has faced the Texans 10 times throughout his NFL career, and yet he only has 3 rushing touchdowns against them. Now, the plus side, barely a plus, but the plus side is he's rushed for over 100 yards in 4 of those 10 games. So almost half of his games he's rushed for over 100 yards. But I really, honestly, on Sunday, I don't see him eclipsing the 60-yard mark. So go ahead and just leave CJ 2K on the bench. Let him warm it up for you. Maybe start him in week 3. A few other running backs I don't care for either in week number 2 is Frank Gore. All the New England running backs, although on a positive note about New England running backs, you may want to stash away Brandon Bolden. As you've heard, Shane Vereen is out till week 11 or so. LeGarrette Blount just doesn't have that drive. Ridley's got fumble problems too, but Brandon Bolden could be the new Shane Vereen and really catch passes out of the backfield. Along with New England's running backs I don't like, you also have to throw Pittsburgh's running backs for the weekend that I do not like. Wide receivers that are high on my board are Deshaun Jackson, Rod Streeter, Michael Floyd, Steve Smith, Marlon Brown of the Ravens, Julian Edelman, and Vincent Jackson of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Marlon Brown is going to be the number 2 receiver for Baltimore for the next 8 to 10 weeks as Jacoby Jones is going to be out. Now, go back to opening night against the Broncos. Marlon Brown had 6 targets on 6 targets where he caught 4 of them and had 1 touchdown. Brian Hartline and the Dolphins just played Cleveland. Brian Hartline took advantage of Mike Wallace getting Joe Hayden. Torrey Smith's going to get Joe Hayden. Marlon Brown's going to have Buster Screen. Marlon Brown could use his great route running skills, his hands, and his speed to get the better of Buster Screen. Start Marlon Brown. Julian Edelman has the best chemistry of any of the receivers in New England with Tom Brady. And last Sunday, with his 2 touchdowns, it really showed. The Patriots draw the Jets tomorrow night on Thursday Night Football, and with Danny Amendola already out, Gronkowski already out, and now Zach Sudfeld questionable, Edelman should have no problem cashing in tomorrow night against the New York Jets in primetime. Vincent Jackson, his first year last year in Tampa Bay, he really did well against the Saints. He had 13 catches for 297 yards and 1 score in both games combined last year. The Saints haven't improved their defense much, as it showed last week, although they won. So I see Vincent Jackson really keeping the momentum going against the Saints where he left off last year. Starting with the tight ends right away, Julius Thomas. I've been high on Julius Thomas from the get-go. He did very well last Thursday night. There's no reason why he shouldn't be in your lineup if you own him. Jason, and also about Thomas, if you notice, the Giants gave up the fourth most tight end points last week to Jason Witten in that Sunday night matchup. And with Thomas obviously being a favorite target now of Peyton Manning, he's got to be in your lineup, hands down. Hands down. Other tight ends, Brandon Myers, Jordan Cameron of the Cleveland Browns, very good game last week in that loss against Miami. Kellen Winslow, and Brandon Pettigrew. Pettigrew didn't make much noise last Sunday, but I think he will against the Cardinals this Sunday. A trio of kickers on the stardom side this week is Mason Crosby of the Packers, Sebastian Janikowski of the Oakland Raiders, and Ryan Lindell of the Tampa Bay Bucks. And to wrap it all up on the defensive side, again, I'm high on the Chiefs. I said it with Tony Romo. I just don't know how healthy they're all going to be. Sure, they're going to play. Just how effective. I like the Chiefs at home. I like the Raiders against the Jaguars. You know, the Chiefs cashed in 22 last week in most leagues. And the Bengals defense. Watch out for them this week against the Steelers on that weak offensive line. Well, that'll do it for week number 2 of R2F2 Prognostication. As always, I appreciate everybody's support. I enjoy the views. Leave comments. You can write me on Twitter, Facebook. Until next week, week number 3, enjoy the week number 2 games. Hopefully you all win. Good luck to everybody. And I'll see you back here next week.